Okay, so I'm Megan Benz, and I'm going to start off with how many of you are familiar with the sweatshirt? Okay, good amount. Well, if you didn't know, it's in Drake's new single, Hotline Bling. He wears it for like probably half the video. But my point is, whether we know it or not, we're familiar with rap music through society, just whether you listen to it or not, just because it's become part of our culture. And the music today that is prevalent is another example of black culture being appropriated by whites for our mere enjoyment and entertainment. And while blacks suffer the consequences, we do not, proving that white supremacy still exists and the term post-racial is just enough today. So first, just a quick background. 1980s, the roots of rap started in East Coast, New York City specifically, and it pretty much promoted socio-political empowerment, and that was the basis of the music. And then we get into 1982, 1986, and that's when the gangster rap kind of evolved, and that's pretty much what our music mimics today. And Public Enemy and NWA were extremely controversial at the time. They didn't promote, but they talked about violence, sex, drugs, and pretty much all the struggles in the inner city. Something that people really didn't have an insight to until this music came about. And this gangster rap evolved and became extremely popular. And then, throughout its popularity, the stereotype came about. And I just really like this quote because it pretty much embodies the whole image of gangster music and a heartless criminal fulfilling his own destructive prophecy. And pretty much throughout this music, the stereotype is a black urban male is only out for himself, has no moral constraints, pretty much walks the streets and everybody fears him. And this stereotype was something that whites weren't really exposed to. They saw it on TV, but never really interacted with it. And they used this music almost as a cool factor because it was an escape from their comfy white suburban life. And they were drawn to it just because it was different. They could set themselves apart from the rest of the majority. And as the music grew in popularity, it once again turned into an industry that whites now control. And these stereotypes are extremely prevalent through society, evident in current events. I'm sure you guys all know Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, those whole incidents, how Trayvon Martin was, I think he was 17 years old at the time. It was in Sanborn, Florida, and he had a hood on. He had iced tea in his hand and candy. He was completely unarmed, walking the streets back from the drugstore, and neighborhood watchman, George Zimmerman, shot him multiple times, and he died. And although his 911 call had no mention of race, the question is, would the outcome have been the same if he was white? And same with Michael Brown, another black male who was walking back. He actually robbed a drugstore and then was walking back, and Officer Wilson shot him 16 times in the back. So he was running away, and he shot him 16 times in the back. And once again, there was riots and protests, and the question is, would this have been the same outcome if he was white? And that returns to the whole fact that whites have taken this fear, this stereotype, and have turned it into fascination. So previously we had no interactions with the stereotype, and then it came into this music, and we thought, you know what, actually we find this pretty interesting and cool. And so it has been incorporated into fashion, media, or even just everyday language. We have taken their culture and just assimilated it onto us. And contrary to popular belief, 70% of consumers of hip-hop culture and music are white, and most of the major corporations are white-owned, which proves that what has started as a movement of empowerment has ultimately been shifted to our control. And in the 90s, 80s, 90s, music, NWA, and then you got Snoop Dogg and Tupac. All of these stem from the fact that they had extremely tough childhoods, a lot of drug-related crimes, gang affiliations, and pretty much we kind of blend them all together, and we see them as a definition of cool and different, and we completely ignore the fact that there's messages and purpose behind the music, because behind it, regardless what type of music, there's a purpose behind it, there's a meaning to the artist. But once again, we have taken this music and completely just manipulated it for our entertainment and enjoyment. And the bottom line, any industry is money. So white consumers make up a majority of the profits. So they're going to produce this music that white consumers like, and despite the fact that it is extremely degrading, it's going to continue to sell, because like any other business, you need to make money, and if not, you fall out of just existence entirely. So music that is popular today, according to Rolling Stone's article, they had 45 top best albums for the first half of 2015. And we have Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly, Ray Shremmer's Shrum Life, and then Drake's If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. And pretty much all these albums stem from the fact that, had very tough childhoods, once again mimicking NWA, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, and how they've come out of that and now they're living large. And once again, that's something that whites are drawn to, they find entertaining. And all these stereotypes that were in previous gangster rap have pretty much been shifted towards now, except it is much more focused. And evidence is the Telecommunications Act of 1996. 6 major labels was condensed to 4, and hundreds of people were laid off, and the artists were increasingly narrowed into this stereotype to fit what would benefit the corporations. And also SoundScan is a musical tracking system, so white executives were able to target their audience, which was predominantly white suburban youth, and they're able to see, okay, well, the stereotypical lyrics on this music create more profit, so that's pretty much what we see today. And today, like, if you ask somebody about their opinion of rap, it's usually the same response, because it has been completely conformed to whites' expectations. Which leads me to the stereotypes that elicit black violence, aggression, misogyny, and materialism. All are ideas that far-right white supremacists will bring up and political conservatives will bring up in order to negate any social reforms. So all these stereotypes that we find entertaining and we have no consequences whatsoever are exactly what conservatives are going to use to stop any reform. And I found this particularly interesting. It was an African Americans Workplace Discrimination article in European American journals, and I was thinking, okay, I can like rap music as much as I want. Those stereotypes will not be applied to me whatsoever. I can go into the workforce, I can go for an interview, and the interviewer is not going to have any judgment towards me or place those stereotypes onto me. Now, you could have an African American have the same resume as me. He could have affiliation with music or not. He could still go on that interview, and the prevalent stereotypes in society can be applied to him whether he chooses or not to, and he has no control over it. And according to this, if you look at unemployment rates, percentage just across the board in general, despite what degree you have, African Americans, it is slightly higher. Like, that's double, but yeah, most of them are double, which pretty much proves that these stereotypes are very prevalent in society and do affect them. And although we enjoy it, they face the consequences on a daily basis. Which comes back full circle to the fact that the key term, post-racial, is a myth, because one outlet, rap music, it's just one outlet in society today that is now controlled by whites. It started as a political and economic empowerment tool for blacks, and we have taken it, manipulated it, proving that white supremacy pretty much exists because we can appropriate culture all we want and we do not face the consequences. And post-racial is a term that is irrelevant and probably will never make